Thanks. Got it. Oh, look at that. It works. Great. All right. Well, it's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started because we know that this is a short week, but also a pretty busy and active week for a lot of families as we get ready for the holidays coming up here on Thursday. So as we have started off all of our KSD Together meetings, this is our third. We're going to start off with some introductions, and then we'll get into kind of the meat of the evening after we go through a little bit of expectations for what this group is and how we're going to function in this space this evening. So do appreciate all of you taking your time this evening and joining us, whether you're online or whether you're here in person. We do appreciate that. So if you could do us a favor, we can start up here and we'll go across the dais and then we'll work our way around the room. When it's your turn, if you could just come up to the podium and speak into the microphone. That way everyone who's online can hear us as well. Also for the recording, that lets people know who's here. So introductions, sharing your name, your affiliation. So you're a parent or you're a previous parent or you're a staff member or a community member. And then why do you want to be a part of this particular group? So start with Kyle.
Start off with me. I'm Kyle Olson, the Director of Technology for the district, and I want to work together with the community to better the district.
I'm Brett Scribner, the Assistant Director of Capital Projects.
Dave Buzzard, Executive Director of Operations, and I would really like for all of us to be harmonious.
Wade Behringer, Deputy Superintendent. And again, this opportunity is for us all to kind of work collaboratively and for the betterment of the district as we move forward. Welcome. How about Pam? Good podium.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Get a couple extra steps in this evening.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pam Hawley. I'm a staff member. I've worked at KSD for 18 years, and I'm really here just to hear what the community's thinking. I've learned a lot. The HVAC was something that blew me away. I didn't understand it, and from that moment on, I wanted to come to every meeting. So thank you, guys.
And again, if we just want to go, you can start a line if you want to. It'd probably be. Yep. Thank you.
My name is Michelle McCormick. My oldest daughter graduated from KM a couple of years ago, and then my younger daughter is a junior at Kittredge. And I am here just because I think it's really, really important for the community and for the district to talk with each other and understand each other and have better communication. So that's it.
Okay, next.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pam Hostler. I am a parent of a first grader, and I just want to be as involved as possible with his schooling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I'm Nan Sargent, and I'm a parent and a staff member at Canyon Ridge Middle School. I grew up in the Auburn schools, and I just feel like we just need to bloom where we're planted, and our kids deserve excellent role models. And I have a lot of background in conflict management work, and I just want to be part of us assuming the best about each other.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Riley, KSD parent, and I'm here to hopefully help build trust between the community and the district.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Patricia Weiler. I am a parent, community member, and I am here to reach out. Whatever I learn here, I want to pass it on to our Hispanic community and to all the other members that I know. So together we can build a better district.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, Steve Golliff. I teach 5th grade at Jenkins Creek. My wife also teaches at Jenkins Creek. Both our kids went to Panther Lake, Meeker, and Kent Ridge and have since graduated. And yeah, I would just echo what everybody else has said so far.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Amanda Geldseth, and this is my first meeting. I heard about it at the superintendent talk. And I have a daughter in first grade at one of the KSD elementary schools. So I echo what everybody else said, and I'm here to listen.
Thanks.
you. Online.
All right, Kathleen, do you want to introduce yourself?
There, I couldn't find the unmute button,
There
sorry.
she is.
I'm Kathleen Trott. I'm a parent for
Hello, Kathleen.
hi.
I see she's
Middle
probably talking. I
schooler
don't hear anything coming through.
at Canyon Ridge.
I can see the mic fluctuating.
Oh, sorry. I'm driving, so that's probably what's happening.
Kathleen, just 1 second. We're trying to check our mic here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, Kathleen, we see you, but we can't hear you. So hopefully we'll be able to figure that out, or you'll be able to figure that out on your end. So you're able to participate this evening, but we appreciate you being here online. All right. For those of you that are new to this group coming in this evening, we started the year off working through the purpose and talking a little bit about this particular committee and our purpose. I'm not going to read all these pieces. This PowerPoint I'm just going to keep sharing it every meeting that we have. The most important part about this group is creating an opportunity for our community to be involved in some transparent, open communication and dialogue with district leadership to help us be better when it comes to communicating and working with our community around capital measures. I would imagine more conversation will come up outside of capital measures in some cases, but that's usually the main focus for this particular group is around capital measures and working together with our community to do better. We talk about keeping students at the focus, problem solving, providing valuable input around future bonds and levies, learning about the processes directly from Kent School District staff, and then of course, responding and answering questions, not only in real time, but also as follow-up questions and things like that. Agreements, norms, and expectations. Again, this is a space, as Dave mentioned, about harmony and working harmonious, working well together. So just taking the time, understanding that, we are not a perfect organization nor a perfect system, and none of us in this room, and especially those sitting at the dais, are not perfect in any way. But we're always trying to better ourselves, and we're always trying to do what we can do for our kids. And so just take that into consideration when we're in these spaces, that we're honoring people's opinions and understanding that everyone has opinions, and we're just respectful in this space. But again, we also appreciate people speaking up and sharing their voices, their experiences, their opinions with us as well. So what are we looking for from this committee? This really is an advisory group. This is an advisory group that, even though the capital tech levy is passing until it is certified, we will be meeting on a monthly basis for the foreseeable future. We're not going to stop just because the levy is passed and we're not done. This group is being created so we can work together side by side with our community to do better, to be better. So this is an ongoing group that we'd like to continue throughout the years. We would like commitment. So I said this in the first meeting. I'll bring it back up this meeting as well, and we'll talk about it the next couple of meetings. We have to get to a point that we have a group of parents and community members that want to be a part of this group. So that way we don't have to spend the first 10, 15 minutes going back through introductions and the expectations for how these run. We can just kind of jump into the work wherever we left off at our last meeting. And so the idea is that we wanted to run a good 3 to 5 meetings and allow people to come and join us and engage in dialogue and find out if this is something you want to be a part of before we say, here is that next or last meeting that we're going to have where it's open to everyone. And this is the group we're going to move forward with, whether it's 10, 12, 15, 25, or 7. And then that doesn't mean that there is no additional outside perspective. We're going to encourage those that become a part of this group to engage in dialogue and conversation, and those that are not in this space. So if you have friends and neighbors, community members that have input on things, please bring that information to us as a representative of this particular group. So we're going to be looking towards a commitment probably in that around that March, April timeframe, so we can move forward from that point on. There's going to be times that we'd like to attend and have meetings at KSD sites. We want to be able to walk sites, talk about capital projects, talk about and show the need for projects that need to get done, and really kind of allow this team to kind of grow with us in understanding of how and why we do what we do. With also, again, respecting perspective of our parents and our community members and staff members who don't do this work every day. So it'll be important to have that perspective. You'll assist us in overseeing future and current project lists, assist in determining project priorities, and then eventually come kind of what I was referring to, kind of a KSD ambassador, someone that has factual knowledge around capital measures, the decision-making process that we come to, and that entire process, and you can be a part of that with us. And so that's something that we hope that this will turn into. So the last meeting, and I'm gonna go over some of the notes from the last meeting. Last meeting, we talked about defining transparency, and these weren't Webster's dictionary definitions of transparency, but we created a space and an opportunity for people to share online and in person what transparency looks like, feels like, sounds like to our parents, to our community, because again, that's something that we as a district need to understand and appreciate, that through the lens of a parent or community member, if this is what you believe transparency to be, then that's your perception. So anytime we're in a space and we're communicating as district office leaders and you're not feeling that we're transparent, then it's important for us to know, what does transparency mean and look like and sound like to you? So we spent the majority of the hour discussing transparency, giving examples, and I want to run through and share 6, 8, 10 of those examples. I'm not going to give names. I'm just going to share things that resonated with me in the notes that were taken for the meeting. And so I'm going to do that now, and then we're going to talk about next steps. So a couple things that were shared that kind of resonated with me as we're thinking about this, and maybe it'll resonate with you if you were either on the call or not on the call or in the room. Business needs to be done in public. We should not have to do public records requests for things that we want to have access to. So that was something that I highlighted. There was a comment about KSD needs to admit their mistakes, being accountable for their actions. That was something that I also noted there. It was also stated about this is around transparency now. Providing all documents, not just some documents in certain settings, whether it be work sessions or whether it be board meetings, things that community have access to. Another person shared about transparency looks like educating the community year round, not just, here comes a levy. Let's talk to you for a couple of months about the levy, and then we don't talk to you until the next levy that comes up. But a year-round marketing plan that's constantly being updated and sharing information with the community so they can keep up with what's going on with the community. Another person shared in regards to the marketing piece is that, we need to show that there is a serious need. So we were talking about the levy, obviously, last time. And how do you market that this is a serious thing, that we truly need to run this levy or this bond or whatever? And then creating space for more community feedback opportunities was something that was mentioned. And then better communication. We spent a little bit of time, a couple of people mentioned the website. And And I think those that did mention the website, it was not in the, oh, it's so easy to find stuff. It was more of the, it's a little bit challenging, a little bit clunky to find the things that we need to find. And therefore it can be frustrating for people. And so that was shared. We talked about, was shared that parents and community members are more apt to listen to principals and to teachers than to district office leadership. You know, and again, I won't disagree with that, because principals and teachers in their own buildings, they have a climate and a culture and a relationship within that particular school that would lend itself for parents and kids to trust and believe in those adults in that space, more so than people at central office that they don't really know who they are and what they're saying and when they're saying it. And so that was something that was important, I felt. It was shared towards the end of the meeting that listening sessions are not useful if we don't do anything with what we've heard. And so talking about actions, you know, actions speaking louder than words, and we can sit here and listen and take notes all day long, but if we keep doing the same thing and expect different results, that's the definition of chaos. And so we all know that. Or insanity, whichever one, both probably. So, and then another piece was our actions need to match what we're saying. If we're saying we're going to do something, we need to do that. And if we're not going to do that, then we need to say why we're not doing that. So one of the things, and to the point that I just shared, like what are the actions we're taking following these listening sessions? So I want to actually answer that question and give some examples before we get into some other pieces, because I think when we talked about transparency, some of those pieces may have been challenging for some to hear, but in the end, your perception is your reality. If this is the way you feel, then that's your reality. It doesn't matter if I say, well, I feel like we're being transparent because we've done all these things. But if you as the receiver of that information doesn't feel like it's being presented to you in a transparent, digestible way, then I'm just spinning my wheels, just saying stuff, and you're not feeling like it's really meeting your needs. And so actions that were taken following the last listening session, or listening sessions like the superintendent's chat. I want to speak to that a little bit because it's kind of falls in line with the same type of thing. There were several comments about the superintendent's chat that I didn't share in here. So the superintendent's chat at Scenic Hill, that Amanda was at, and appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you. I felt from the first chat at KLA to the second chat at Scenic Hill that we collectively, we meaning Superintendent Bella and myself, did a better job of answering questions and giving more detailed responses to the questions that were asked. So, and then those questions that weren't being asked, following up with teams. There were some questions that came up at the Scenic Hill piece around dual language and things like that. Well, I was able to come back. I was able to talk to the assistant superintendent of teaching and learning, Dr. Kim. She was able to work with her dual language team around some of the specific things were brought up to be able to move in that direction and improve things based on what was shared in that small group setting. I would also say that following the Kent Laboratory Academy superintendent's chat, I spent several hours following up with several people that they had cards that weren't answered at that time, answering them via email and reaching out to them. And so I think that's important because, you know, to the point of there needs to be actions following listening sessions. I just want to give some examples around that. The work sessions in the past, I would say more often than not, rarely is it that work sessions that the board members don't have the documents. They have the documents ahead of time, as well as the public does, and then they have the documents at the meeting. And so any documents that we're going over, whether it be via presentation or whether it be hard copies, our board members have access to that. There's really no getting away with doing a presentation to the board during a work session and them not having the documents ahead of time. So just know that that is a priority, and it always has been. Excuse me. Community voice and involvement. one of the things that was stated in here by a couple of people about having more space for community members. We've started the superintendent chats. We've had 2 of those now. There are 3 remaining. I run a parent forum group every month. I have a meeting every month for parent forum. We've got KSD together that runs the last Monday of every month. That's what we're sitting in right now. And then I always encourage, and I know that this has been a concern from even a couple of people that were in the KSD together group the last time around email and whether or not people respond to their emails. I would encourage people to think about who you're emailing. And if you're not getting responses from the people that you're emailing, then you might want to add some other people on your email. So maybe someone else will be able to respond to those emails, because that is a useful method of communication for us. I know on our team, when people email us, you might not, and here's the thing, people might not like our answers. You might not agree with them. You might have wanted something other than what we gave you, but we have responded, and we've responded in the way that we believe is the right way to respond. And there are times that we won't go down the rabbit hole of like back and forth 6 or 7 or a dozen times, just because it's not using our time wisely. And so we'll do our best to answer the questions. We'll do our best to stay on the topic. But just know that there are people that we respond to that they may not like our answers, but it doesn't mean that we're not listening to them. It does not mean that we're not responding to them. It just means that they might not have liked how we answered the question.
And also, Wade, real quick, it might also take us a little bit of time to get what data you're looking for. So just make sure that just because we're not answering in 1 day or 2 days, we've made it a point to say, okay, we're in receipt of your email. Give us a few days and we'll get back to you.
And the other piece, just to kind of wrap up this piece, I talked about the website. I know Kathleen, who's on, and even though we might not be able to hear her, she had shared her example of trying to access the ASB information for her child's school. Well, immediately following the meeting the next day, I reached out to our webmaster. I connected Kathleen with the webmaster because I figured if parents have experiences and they're struggling to find things, the best way to do it is to talk to the person who is making adjustments and trying to build a website that's user friendly to our public. Because really, the website is not for me. I mean, I use the website, but it really is not designed for the staff in the district. It really is designed for our community and our parents. And if we have parents or community members that are struggling to find things, then we should reach out and see if there's a different way that we can present stuff so you can find it easier. So I'll say that again in this space. If there are people in this room when we leave today that you're struggling with things, I know Michelle has shared things with me. Like I can put you in touch with our webmaster. And again, everything might not change like that. It might not be a perfect situation, but if we know, then let's see what we can do to do things better, or at least give a justification or rationale for why we're not doing it that way, just so there's an understanding from adults. I think that's important as well when it comes to transparency. So that was my piece on transparency that I wanted to share this evening. I know we could talk about transparency for days and days and days. And I'm hoping that through each meeting, when we're meeting together, that you will get the sense of not only those of us that are in these spaces being more transparent and being more open to answer your questions and give you the information that you're looking for as much as we're legally able to, that you'll feel like we're being more transparent, we're being more open. I've shared in all the various listening sessions that I've run, and I pretty much run all of them, that, you know, I'm an open book. I'll tell it how it is. I've got nothing to lose, and I'm all about being a straight shooter and telling the truth, because that's the only way to do it. Everything we do in our positions as leaders in this district and in any district for that matter, you know, you're under a spotlight. You're always held to a Public Records Act. You're always held accountable to anyone can have access to your information at any time. So there's no use in people making up stuff or cutting corners or not telling the truth. It's just going to put you in your reputation in a tough spot. That's not how we operate. So as I said earlier, people might not like how we respond, but we're not lying when we do respond. And so You might not get everything you want because there might be reasons why you're not able to get every single thing that you think you want. But know that we spend a lot more time talking to our attorneys about what can be shared and can't be shared than we probably want to be doing, just to make sure that we can try to meet the needs of our constituents. So with that, as we move forward through these next meetings and years of working together, if you're going to commit to that, hopefully we'll continue to create this space where you feel like you can trust us more, that we are being more transparent or meeting your needs when it comes to transparency. You're getting the information that you need, so you can share that with your community as well, because that's the goal. Whatever we talk about in here is not just for you to keep to yourself. I mean, this is all public, and we record this, we put it online, people can watch it, which they do. Then you can get fun emails like I do saying, hey, at this minute marker, you said this, which is always fun. But again, that's what it is. I mean, you're absolutely right. And this is where you admit your mistakes, because there are many times that you just get rolling and then it's like, oh, you said that. And you're like, yeah, but you're right. I was wrong. Absolutely right. Appreciate you correcting me, because I don't have a problem with that. You know, I don't have a photographic memory. I don't memorize everything. So sometimes I do need to be corrected, more often than not. My wife tells me that all the time. So I wanted to be able to move into a different topic tonight. And knowing that the levy is passing, and if you haven't seen that yet, we're tracking it every single day. We're at 50.77. There has not been an adjustment. I'm assuming there's no more votes to be tallied in this particular election right now, because it hasn't adjusted since Friday. Oh gosh, I always forget certification, like the approval.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So certification's tomorrow. And then I'm sure we'll be fine there, and then they'll move forward. So, as we get into this topic, I just want to say thank you to those in this room, those that are online, Kathleen, and those that will watch this video that are not in this space, whichever way you chose to vote. I just want to say a big thank you to the entire community for supporting this levy at this time so we can move forward and support our kids. So I know that it's always a decision that can be challenging for some people to make, depending on either their financial situation that they're in or their feeling about the district at a particular time. And or any other reasons why they may choose to vote in the affirmative or the negative. But we just appreciate the support of the community as we move into this. So when we think about what does it look like, sound like, feel like to rebuild trust, we talked about that within transparency. What I would like to do a little bit this evening, if at all possible, we'd like to put a survey out to our community. Something we've done the last, the bond and the levy following the bond failure put out a survey, and then at the last failure of the levy, we did 2 questions in the climate survey asking if people wanted to be involved in a group like this. We didn't really get into like, you know, why did you vote this way and what did we do wrong and those types of things. But we would like to put out a survey to our community before winter break around this particular levy. Because even though it passed at 50.77, and we're thankful for that, the reality is it's 50.77. It's not 57, it's not 58, it's not 60, it's not 65. It's a squeak above 50%. And really, it's because there were 77,000 people that voted. And the history of KSD and being successful in capital measures, a lot of that lives in large presidential election timeframes. Our special elections, especially in the last few years, have proven to be unsuccessful for us in Kent. Voter turnout has been between 23 and 26% during those smaller elections, and it really hasn't helped us. Coupled with other things that we're working on to be better and do better, this election helped. Now, we're not going to be able to run every single one of our elections from here on out on 4-year presidential terms. It's not going to work that way. So we have to find a way that 50.77 is not the yay, it's as long as it passed. We're happy for that 1 second that it's passing and it will pass. But in the end, we need to get into a space that we're comfortable passing levies at 57 to 60%. And that really comes down to, you know, our community and how comfortable they are. And not just around, we know that taxes have an impact, but we also know how people feel about the district has an impact as well. And so that's what this group is going to help us do better and be better with. And so I would love if we could spend a little bit of time talking about like survey questions or what types of things should we be asking and looking for. And so I'm open to discussion. If there's actually, maybe I should pause for a second before we just jump right in and I've talked for 30 minutes straight. Any comments, thoughts, questions, anything just about everything that I've shared up to this point, including just the recap of the transparency piece, please come up to the mic, share.
Come up.
And again,
Come on, Michelle. I know you want to.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, throughout the meeting, okay, go ahead.
So you were talking about the board and the public having the paperwork and things for things that you're presenting. A lot of times it feels like at the board meetings, the vote is very urgent, has to be done that night. Is that, I mean, I don't know if in other districts that's normal or if that's like a KSD we didn't plan well thing. You know what I mean? I just don't know if that's normal.
Sure, I can talk
yeah.
about that. So I would say that on a rare occasion, which it does happen, and maybe a little bit more than rare, but it's definitely not a norm.
Yeah, it just seems like recently it's been happening.
So how things work, and this is how things work. So when we have a board meeting coming up, the entire week before that board meeting, if the board meeting is on a Wednesday, the week before that board meeting, we sit down with the board members. So Israel and myself, we sit down with the board members and we go through every single agenda item. So we're talking about usually 8 days before the board meeting. And we ask if you have any questions. We go through every single item. Do you have any questions? Do you understand? All that kind of stuff. There's opportunities. Some board members ask questions. We sit down, we take down the notes and things like that. And then we send it out to our teams and we answer all those questions by Friday before the agenda goes live. Because the agenda goes live Friday night for the following Wednesday's board meeting. So there has been on a rare occasion, something has been added like on a Monday or something that was again added and we didn't even know it was going to be added because it was done smack dab in the middle because I don't have any control over, you know, the board bringing up an agenda item or something like that. But rarely is there something that someone hasn't had plenty of time to be able to ask questions, go through it, get the information, process all that stuff, and be prepared to be able to make a vote on those Wednesday meetings.
Do you think that some of those bigger things though, that having that time, I mean, you know, realistically, the board members are working a full-time job in addition to what they're doing. And some of those bigger decisions, do you think that that realistically a week is enough time for them to process all that information, have all of their questions answered?
It depends on what big issue that you're referring to, because
Just in general.
like budget stuff. Well, we spent 3.5 months going over the budget before we actually approved the budget.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just speaking in general, like for bigger things. If like maybe there's some times where we need to, you know, give more time.
I would say more often than not, if there are big things coming, they are socialized through the weekly board update to the school board ahead of time. They're socialized from the superintendent to the board members. I mean, so rarely, and again, when people say that, oh my gosh, they didn't know, it's like, I'm baffled by that because I literally sit in those meetings and take down the notes and get the information and give it back. So I'm like, no, that doesn't fly for me because I'm there.
Yeah, I'm just curious of the process.
And if I could just jump into just a little bit. So I was with another district for about 20 years. And the amount of kind of the information that I'm required here to give to the administration and then present to the board is quite a bit higher than the threshold I had in my last district. So a good example is like we're doing cabling jobs right now. I've got to plan out my RFPs and they've got to hit a certain timeline and a certain threshold. And so a lot of times I have to give it, my information a couple weeks before the board meeting, and I have to plan it and backtrack it. So my schedule could be like a 5-month schedule
Mhm.
just before construction can start. And if it doesn't get passed at that board meeting, it could throw off, sometimes in some cases push me to the next year because we're trying to hit those deadlines. So
Right.
I'd say that from my experience, it's tough sometimes to have something you want to do and then have to wait, in some cases, 3 weeks before you know if you're going to be able to do it or not, right? So
Yeah.
from my perspective, this district has provided more information than my last district. So when you say kind of contrasted with other districts,
Okay.
that's been my,
Yeah, I mean, I
That's
don't
been
have
my
any
stuff,
experience
but-
with any other districts, so I don't know. That's-
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
good question.
Hey, Kyle, what's an RFP?
Request for proposal.
Thank
So
you.
it's like a, thank you, going out to bid for large projects. Yeah.
Joe?
But I just want to follow up on some of that. So the pattern that I see, and I understand there's times when we are up against the deadline.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks causes problems. That should be rare. That should be beyond rare. That should be something messed up. Do it now and then circle back and figure out what went wrong. How can we prevent it next time? It doesn't have to be zero. I understand that. The problem is the pattern I see is superintendent contract, for example, was approved the week that it was sent to the public. So I saw it. I sent emails. I didn't get responses. Questions were asked in the board meeting. Board members asked, can we delay this? And the answer was no, we can't delay this. No deadline. There's no, it was, we have to do it at some point, and so why not just do it now? And that wasn't just the contract, right? 1669 was approved the week it was released to the public. So my only attempt, my only way that I can ask questions, I send a board member asked it that week, doesn't get an answer, and there is no follow-up, right? One of the policies, one of the board policies is unless it's an emergency, policies are never approved the week that they are put on the agenda, right? First reading, second reading, and then you do the approval or policy work session. You get the actual draft, not just the policy work session, the actual draft. And then the next meeting is when you approve it. And I don't see that happening. I see that happening rarely. I think more times than not, things are approved the week of. And even if there are questions, it's, well, we have to do it, right? We can't put it on a week. We can't delay it by anything. iGrad was another example, right? The iGrad, the plan, the renovation plan for iGrad approved the week it was released, and it was asked, can we delay this by a week? And the answer was no, we can't delay it by a week because it throws off everything. We've pushed everything to the very last minute. Even a week throws the entire plan off kilter. And that happens over and over and over and over and over and over, going all the way back to the beginning of 2023, over and over and over. We get these examples of things that were always pushed up to the end. So yes, it happens occasionally. It shouldn't happen always. And I do not think it happens rarely. I think it's more than rarely.
All right, I can appreciate that. You do know that, I mean, the board makes a decision, so it's.
Yeah.
It's not like
This isn't,
we don't have control over that.
yes,
So if the
What
board
I
wants
would-
to vote for it or against it, I mean, they can
Yep.
turn it down and say, no, you guys are gonna wait.
yes.
Yeah.
But what I would like to see, what I would love to see is leadership say, you don't have to vote on this tonight. We've planned ahead. We can wait 3 weeks or 2 weeks or 1 week, or we can't wait 3 weeks, but if you want a special meeting, we can wait a week and you call a special meeting and approve it there. I don't hear that from leadership. Leadership at best says nothing and lets the board run on the assumption that they can't do anything. At worst, leadership is the one that says, no, we can't wait a week. So I would love to see a push, like a push to say, you can wait, you can get your questions answered. We'll make it work, approval week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks out.
So Joe, I do appreciate that. And I'll let you know that we do try to do the best that we can. I'll let you know from our perspective of me overseeing capital for the last 7 years, and now Brett is overseeing it. What I can tell you is that when you look at those examples, and again, there's no excuse. You're absolutely right. I would rather be a head than be a fireman because I don't like being a fireman at all. But if you look at those examples that you said over and over and over again, I would like to go back, I'm sitting here thinking to myself of the last 7 years of board meetings that I've sat right over here and I've watched things get passed that were on time versus the ones that aren't on time, then I would say the word rare is. Maybe not since 2023, but if you go back to 16, from 17 to now, what was the iGrad when they said no to the change order?
Yeah.
That's the first board no for any capital project since I've been in this district, March 14th of 2017. And I was glad that the board said no. We were, even though we knew that, that we put that plan together. But I can say, if you look at the hundreds and hundreds, probably 1,000 of items that have come across this dais in 7 years, when you look at like you said, the iGrad, and again, 1669, things like that, that's not in our world. Okay. I don't know what world that is, but it's not in our world.
Yep.
We do our best to do that. So if you look at the thousands of things that have been on time, way ahead of schedule versus a few things that we had. And again, we're not perfect. Dave Buzzard's not perfect. Brett's not perfect. Kyle's not perfect. I know Wade's not perfect because he said it like 13 times today already. So again, we need to get better. We will get better. And again, you'll start to see that. You will. You will start to see that.
Yeah, and it's not just about the no, it's about the delay, right? It's about the second reading. It's about show the plan and then walk away and let it digest. And then the next time come back and say, okay, we've had 2 weeks to look at this. We're fine to put it out.
Let me talk to you about that,
Yeah.
about policies. So all the policies live in a space for the board members to have access to and read and go through and all that kind of stuff. Policies come to a work session.
Not public.
Well,
Right,
no,
but
because
I think
your job is not to do policy work. It's the boards to do policy work.
Right,
Yeah.
but if you're talking about wanting to rebuild trust, wanting to have active participation, you can't say, we'll bring it to you. And this happens a lot. And this isn't you, this is board members. I hear it a lot from the board that we've done all the work already. We've done it in private. We've done it on our own. You have nothing to, you have no part in that process. We will bring the policy and we will do what we want. And you just need to sit down and be quiet, right? And that's not going to rebuild trust, not just for capital, across the board.
Yeah.
And it is hard because you can't pull them apart, right? You could be perfect and we could still be failing levies because the board is the leaders and the board is who has to regain trust.
Yeah, on the policy piece, I understand. And again, this year, I think even last year, policies come to the work session. So they're done in the work session first. One of the things that it was feedback from the board last year, which I think last spring, which is, don't do a policy work session and then turn around and have it on the board meeting, that night.
Yep.
Because there hasn't been time to digest. So we've moved away from that. So now it's the first reading is in work session. And then it's 2 weeks later that if we are ready to go for a second reading, that it'll be on the agenda for a second reading, giving the public the week before the work session or a Friday before the work session to have access to, then the 2 weeks. So trying to make adjustments to that, because understandable that there are, there's a half an hour gap between when you go through the first reading and you might have the second reading. Now, regardless of whether or not the board has had all the time and they feel like, hey, we're good with this and it's just the WASDA said this and we're going to do this or whatever. That's something that we're trying to adjust so there isn't that. There is that time because, to your point, not all board members, but some board members want to engage their community or want their community to be able to tell them what they think about that, whether it's one word changed or no words changed or whatever it is.
Right.
So I think we are changing that. That is something that has been changing this year. So hopefully we're not seeing that's where it's that quick. But I understand. Yeah. Tam. I don't know.
Not this year.
I don't recall. I don't know. I can't say here or there. I think
Session first as first reading.
We never have them where they go straight from work session to half hour later on the agenda for a vote.
And I don't know that that's happened either.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, my point overall was, and it's not just policy, right? My point for this discussion was I would like to see similar patterns happen for capital projects, where capital projects are brought for a first reading and discuss the plan, very detailed, here's what it is, but explicitly, this is not going to go for approval today. This is just a presentation of the whatever we're gonna approve. And then you think on it and then we move it forward. Not for every project. But for some of the major ones, or for some of the ones where there is a large increase. So I think it was Lake Young's had something like a 30% increase in the bid. And it was approved as a consent agenda item. Someone had to pull it. There was discussions, and then it was like, well, we have to do it. But some of those things should be like, hey, there is a big increase here. Here's the impact to everything else. You sit and think on it and then move forward. And at times, there's nothing you can do about it, but I would just like to see a slowdown and make sure that we have the plans laid out, because a lot of times, from my perspective, whether it's reality or not, from my perspective, we're sort of chasing a target. And every day is, how do we solve this problem? How do we solve this problem? How do we solve this problem? Instead of thinking, where do we want to be in 3 years? And how do we get there? And make sure the decisions we make now correlate to that. And an example of this is the Mill Creek Field, right? In the voucher, you replace the center track for Mill Creek. Even though if the grant passes, it's going to be ripped up in a year and a half, right? And so there's questions of like, is that really the right decision?
It was.
Yeah.
It was the right decision
But why isn't that public then?
because it's a 2016 bond project that's already been approved by the community, Joe.
Well,
That project was already approved by the community
grass
in
fields.
2015.
Grass
Grass fields and a track replacement.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
But why in 2016, there was not going to be torn up in 2 years? It wasn't, the public did not approve
That is correct.
2-year track replacement and then do it again.
But
So
but
why now? Why now, given that we already have a plan, we already had a levy, $9 million, we already had a grant, which is going to add another $3 million. We have all this money coming that we might know by the end of this year. Why would we preempt all of that to spend money on a track replacement that might only last a year?
so our kids have a place
Yeah.
to run. That's my final answer. Our kids deserve a
Sure,
place to be able to
but-
have track.
This is a great example
This-
of why the community is lacking trust, is because I ask a question and you say, this is the answer. No,
Well,
they're like, what
so the-
data?
so-
And why is it at a point now where the track is so astronomically bad, but it wasn't last year?
I'll tell you why. I have that answer.
Sure.
Because the city of Kent did a reestablishment project all the way down Mill Creek.
Uh-huh.
Okay. When they did that, we had to rip out the fence that was on school property. When they did that, they cut trees down. They didn't remove the stumps, but they did remove all the roots that came all the way through the east side of the track, even underneath some of the field. So at that point, the track was non-usable for our students to have track and field. That's when we made a determination to be able to replace just the track, not do anything else, and put the fence line in so that our kids are not running into the creek, and that our kids at Mill Creek and all the other schools that come for track had a place to have a track meet.
And that couldn't be done with a patch? Like smaller fixes just for the things that were a problem instead of the entire track and a reseed of the field? Because I think
The
that was
reseed
also
of the field was done through general fund.
Sure, but
Okay.
that field is also going to be ripped up next year.
That is correct.
Assuming
In
we
a,
get
in a couple,
the grants.
yeah, we have to,
Yeah.
what you're counting on the grant coming through. I'm not, I am not going to count on anything until somebody says, guess what, Dave, Brett and KSD, here's your $18 million, $20 million grant.
Yep.
So before then, we were making that so our kids today at Mill Creek could have a place to play, safe, and a track that's safe.
Yeah, and I'm saying
Yeah, sure.
No disrespect.
No, you're good.
I feel like I've heard similar conversations at the levy listening sessions and these meetings as well. So I'm just gonna say generally, and I'm not asking for an answer or response, but people are voicing their opinions and concerns, and it becomes an argument or it becomes
Oh.
explanations. Just, you know, it becomes an argument. This is what we're getting right now. We're getting an argument over how some money was spent. I think with that track thing in particular, I think nobody knew about it. Your explanation probably makes perfect sense, but nobody knew about it. And that's maybe where the transparency thing was missing, right? I think there were emails, were there emails about the voucher being approved at a board meeting or something? I'm not sure if any
So-
answers got, and I just want, I don't want you to respond. I just want you to understand. What I'm hearing is we end up arguing about this stuff and people voice a concern and then they get pushback and here's a response, here's the explanation for that. As opposed to just here, like Wade at the beginning kind of read through some notes from last time. It would be nice to just voice the feedback and say, thank you for the feedback, and that's it. And I was looking back at the,
Thank you for the feedback.
thank you.
Okay.
And
And
it-
if
it-
you want to stay afterwards, I would love to be able to explain this to you in a more in-depth way, because I think once I could explain it to you, and I don't consider this an argument, I consider this a perspective from, I'm a leader in this district, and I am here for KIDS, kids. I
We know-
want
we
our
know- we know
kids
that
in
stuff.
this district
We know
to
that
be able to
stuff.
have.
So
Okay.
the purpose,
Hold on.
And I want our kids, I want our kids
I think,
to have
I feel
I
like
want
we're
our kids to
losing
have a
the
good.
purpose of these meetings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've taken too much time on this and I apologize. I'll say one thing. If you want to respond, you can, and then we can drop it. I agree. I think the biggest problem with this one is I was surprised to see it.
Okay.
There was a plan for Mill Creek, and to see a voucher for money that we replaced the track, knowing that there is going to be a plan was surprising to me. And that should have been, from my perspective, that should have been a presentation of, hey, we're going to do this. This project came through, it destroyed parts of the track. We want to fix it this way. We know it's potentially going to get ripped up into 2 years, but we think it's worthwhile for the couple years. That's what I would want to see. And the other thing that I really take issue with, I care about kids too. And I do not like hearing, to my criticism, that the reason you did this is because you care about kids, because that implies that the reason I'm complaining is that I don't care about kids.
I don't feel that way.
Okay, that's how it sounds.
I'm sorry it sounds
Every
that
time
way.
it happens.
I'm sorry that sounds that way. I apologize.
So, and that's how it's coming across. And we are all in this together.
We are,
This KSD Together Committee.
yes.
We all want the best. We all want our kids to succeed. And the arguments here are not about, I don't think Mill Creek deserves a track. The argument here is, do I think it's worth spending $75,000 to $100,000 for 1 year?
Thank you.
Did you have something more you wanted to say before? I didn't know if you were cut off.
Well,
Oh,
I was gonna say, I'll add, just to the end there. There has been also conversations about the sender that was put down on that track. There's conversations between maintenance and athletics already, to salvage that sender for uses throughout the district. If the grant does pass and we're able to perform the work down there on that field, that sender that we did put down there will be, reused. Yeah, it's not gonna go to waste.
I was just going to say that I don't think it's necessarily sometimes the explanation that's given, but sometimes the tone of the explanation. That's all. That's just what I was gonna say, is sometimes the explanation comes across as very defensive, when maybe the person asking the question is just asking a question. They're not accusing, they just don't know, and they just want to understand. So, because we don't know all the information that you guys do. So,
agreed.
yeah,
Thank
we
you
don't
for
have all the
feedback.
information. So that's all. I mean, you may know all of it, but we don't, so that's all. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate that.
So.
So I think what I was hearing, and I could be mistaken, but this was just my perception, was that the public feels like they want to have more say to be able to communicate with board members, with leadership before they feel like decisions go forward, not whether or not we should have, a track replacement for the kids or whatever, but just the chance to have more time to digest it as the public, whether the board has a lot of time or not, that we have that. That's what I heard. And to the second thing I was hearing is that, and I'm sure you get trainings on this all the time, I know I do in my career, creating a safe space is great, but a safe culture, I think a lot of people don't show up here, not because they don't know about it, but because they don't feel like they can effectively communicate in these forums. And be safe to give feedback or to give an opinion, and it not be taken or gone down the road of feeling combative or defensive. And so I would just, like everybody to reflect on that, is that, I was challenged, by a couple people in the session, that we had with the superintendent, to, even though I had a very negative experience at the beginning of this year at our particular school, to keep an open mind and to really put myself out there to be part of this, so that I could build trust personally, and just because I see in the community so much, I want to assume the best until I'm given reason not to. And unfortunately, in one specific case I was, but I love my school. I love my kid, obviously. And I want to be part of the solution for the future, not just keep complaining about things that, and so we need a safe culture here where we feel like as the public, we can come and talk about these things and get to those solutions. And then to get back to the survey question, I think it would be really great if we could meet people where they are. And I think that there was something about how do we have better representation from our community, because I think our strength is that we are so diverse. But I don't see that diversity in, this one meeting's not a great representation, or maybe it's the point I'm trying to make, is that, whether it's the superintendent meetings, I know we have online forums, but I don't find that I can really concentrate in those. 5 to 6, I live a minute from the school it was at, so it was easy to get to, and I work from home, so I have that flexibility. A lot of people don't necessarily have a partner at home who can take care of the kid, or they work until 6, or, so opening up spaces that are, or asking in the survey, what times would you want us to have those sessions? And, do you want to have them in Spanish only, or have translators, or, if we're trying to, represent our community and get the community, we have to meet them where they are. And I think that would really help, in my opinion, ask those things within the survey. And hopefully that would give you some answers on how we can to build more and get more community involvement in the future.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Adding on to that, do you need childcare? Would you need childcare provided? Because there's a lot of people who, they work different shifts. They don't have anybody to watch the kids if they want to come. People with younger kids, a lot of times can't come to these meetings. It's another expense to hire.
Yeah.
Hello, I have attended many, many meetings throughout the years. I'm talking about a period of 11 years. In those 11 years, I was a parent of children, and the district, since I became a part of it, for me as a single parent, has been difficult to no childcare and no one to leave my kids with. In every meeting, in every session that I attended, different things, different subjects, different committees. The district has provided interpreters. I have been one of them, and the district always provides childcare. The district not only focuses on English and Spanish, I have had the privilege of working with interpreters of every single nationality, and it has been fantastic. So I think what we need is just reach out to our communities. For instance, where I live, I have a lot of Middle Eastern neighbors that I speak with. And sometimes, yes, they are busy, they have children, but there are opportunities where we can reach out to them. And I just have to say the district does care, does provide childcare, does have interpreter services online and in person. And they do have a liaison that we can reach out if needed. So the resources are there. We just need to use them. Thank you for caring about single parents.
I know we're at 7:01. One thing I'd like to ask, because I know that we're not gonna stay here till 8 o'clock coming up with survey questions, but I would like the survey questions to have more community and parent input than those that were just able to share a couple of those quick pieces right there. So if by chance I don't have your email, which I know I have most people's email in this group, if I don't have your email, if you could just give it to me before you leave, then I'll send an email out to a smaller group of people and give some guidance around what are some other questions that we can ask. And we'll kind of work through a drafting process of questions, which then I would encourage you to then take out to other people outside of the 6, 8, 10 people on the email and find out what are some other questions we could ask that maybe give us some information that we don't have that we want to kind of lean into a little bit. So I'd encourage you to help support in that way.
I'm not clear on what the purpose of the survey is.
Survey is going to be asking a couple different things. One, feedback on the levy. Like, what is it about the levy that made you feel comfortable voting yay or nay towards it? What did we do differently that made you feel differently if we did? And then leading into what can we do better as a community to make sure that you feel like you're informed around levy, capital measures, bonds. I want to kind of be a little bit more robust in asking some questions that maybe we haven't asked before. Part of it being about the specific levy that was passed, and then the other part of it being about what can we do better moving forward around things. The surveys that we asked of the bond and then the first failed capital tech levy, we asked a handful of questions specifically around the projects and things like that, and there can be a question around the projects on this particular levy that's passing, but I really want to kind of understand what is it going to take moving forward for this particular team specifically. What do we need to know that we don't already know? And again, I don't have all the answers. I'm not a survey writer. And obviously the survey data we've gotten over the last handful of surveys that we've run have given us information about different things. I have my own perception of what that data shares. Other people have different perceptions of what that data shares and what it says and what it doesn't say. So maybe if we build something together and we have an understanding, and again, I'm not expecting that we're going to have this, knock this out in the next couple of days. This might be something that we can work on for the next few weeks. And maybe, obviously, we don't have another meeting until January, but an opportunity for us to build something together. And maybe to your point, Steve, that we come to a little bit more clarity on what exactly are we asking and what's the purpose? So maybe it's twofold, and maybe we're pretty clear with the survey that part of it's this and part of it's that, or maybe it's not about the levy that's passing right now. Maybe it's moving forward. It's about this. What does it take to, win over the community? And we know that we're in this space of trust and transparency and conversations, or we wouldn't be having these meetings. I said the last meetings, like, I don't have to do these things. We don't have to do this. We need to, and we should, and that's why we're here, because we have to do better. And the only way to do better is by engaging our community and sitting here and listening and doing something different. So, and so I'm open and will continue to be open to suggestions around maybe what this survey looks like and how we move forward with the content.
You know, especially from a capital perspective, you know, maybe some of the survey questions, and I think this is one too. Do we continue to put projects in schools or do we start to replace them? Again, you know, Auburn and, you know, other districts have started to replace a lot of their schools. So where is that? And we've got a lot of data. Why, and again, maybe that's some of the questions that we would like the community to answer for us, how we go down that path. Do we keep putting money into buildings that were built in 1966 or 65? Where, you know, we put, you know, a $5 million multi-purpose room, new HVAC, how does that work? So again, you know, it's looking more down the road of looking at our enrollment, okay? Because we all know, I mean, enrollment's been down. And where do we go from here and how can we best utilize the property that we have? And when we go to, and this is where we need the community's help. This is really where we need community's help, is building a new school or replacing a school, you know, a thumbs up of, okay, you can do that. And then where do those kids go if we have to, like, you know, pull those kids out for a year or 2 years while we're getting it done? So I think that's just a lot of some of the questions.
Right, anything else? So we don't have a meeting in December, but I would like to send this out before winter break. So it's kind of on the heels of the levy certification tomorrow. I will send an email out. If I don't have your email, please just come let me know. We'll get that out. We'll work on this together in a draft. We can do like a reply all email and kind of work in a document or share a document with each other. And work on that piece together. The next meeting is
January 27th.
Yeah, it's January 27th. Oh, I see we had Erica and Thomas joined us too. Thanks, Erica and Thomas, for being here. Sorry, I didn't see that you guys joined. I would have had you introduce yourselves. I appreciate you being here. What? Yeah, PowerPoint, just real quick. So next meeting is Monday, January 27th. Then we had a meeting in February. That meeting is going to be canceled because we have a couple conflicts. We have a space conflict in this space. And then we have multiple staff conflicts. So you might be having a conversation with one person instead of a larger group. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll come back in again in March. So January 27th is our next meeting. I would like to, even if we want to engage via email, especially for the survey piece, we can do that moving forward. So canceling because I don't think you're going to have the number. I mean, we could have it, but you're not going to have very many staff members there to be able to engage in the conversation. But we can't have it in here. We're not going to be able to stream it. We're not going to be able to record it because this room is being used at that time.
I'm saying,
yeah.
Move it to another day versus kids.
You could. I have Tuesday night meetings, Wednesday night meetings, Thursday night meetings. Mondays are the only nights I had free. So, I mean, and again, I don't have to, I mean, I don't have to be the person that does that. I mean, but it's just.
Yeah, I'm okay canceling.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
If it was a one-day thing. The whole week then.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why. Sorry about that. The other thing that we won't want to talk about tonight, obviously, because we're going to leave, but when we get done with the survey and we get that piece out, I want to be able to start talking about this too as well. I appreciate Joe for correcting me on the EP&O. I don't even know why I was so far off. I was looking at different dates. But I want to talk about the EP&O levy, which will go out in 27 for, and then the cap tech or just tech levy that maybe can run with the EP&O at the same time, pull capital out altogether and focus on running a bond and not do a capital levy around maintenance, deferred maintenance and things like that, and just focus on a bond. We have some thoughts and ideas around it, but this group is going to help us. Obviously, we have a little bit of time between now and then to really come up with what does that look like. And then obviously in that time between now and then, we'll have time to be able to share our data with you so you can understand if we talk about, hey, we might want to build a school or two, knowing why we want to build a school or two and which ones have a priority over others and things like that, and then get out into those spaces. So just know that is a conversation that will come up. We're looking for strategies from this group that may resonate more with our community members. And so again, moving forward, we don't plan on running capital measures without a group of parents and community members that can walk alongside us and support us in this work, because us doing this by ourselves did not prove to be well received in a lot of ways, and we just have to own that and do different. So appreciate your time, appreciate you guys being here tonight. Again, to Dave's point and for Steve, is that I don't want us to be adversarial. I'm not meant to be in an argument, and I know that sometimes, because we're very passionate about what we do, not that you guys aren't passionate about what you do, or you wouldn't be here this evening as well. And I understand that sometimes it can come across as being defensive, or we're just trying to explain our side. And so we will all work on that.
I will
So
definitely
we
work
can
on
be in
that.
that space that it feels like we're all in this together, and not I don't like your answer and I'm going to give you the answer, and that way. So
I will publicly apologize if I offended anybody in this room or online. That is not my goal. I understand that we're all here for the right reasons. I do recognize that. And I'll leave it at that until a later date, so we can all get together and be harmonious for sure. So I will take that to my.
So if I don't have your email, please just let me know. I think I pretty much have, I might not have Amanda's email. I don't know if I personally got any angry emails from you. Yeah. So. Wow. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. in the line.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks for getting me out of that one.